What does independence mean to you? That's a layered question. You could, of course, have a very quick answer to that. The textbook definition, the guarantee of the inalienable rights that every individual must have, what we celebrate every year on the 15th of August. But if you narrow the scope and think about what it means to you, your answer might differ from your neighbors. For me, it is the ability to choose what to do with my time. This is Your Money Matters on NDTV Profit, and I'm Alex Matthew. First, on behalf of everyone here, I'd like to wish you a very happy Independence Day. I wanted to discuss what independence means to different generations, and that's why today I invited into studio Stan Alvarez and his daughter Yulette Alvarez. Thanks so much for taking the time. And along with them, in studio also is Rohit Shah, the Chief Executive Officer of GYR Financial Planners. Thanks so much to all of you, and wish you all a very, very happy Independence Day.
You too.
You know, so the idea was to get very different generations. And Stan, you're 63, you celebrated your birthday this week, so happy birthday as well.
Thank you.
And your daughter, your youngest of three, is 22. Yulette, you're 22. So this is already and also Rohit, if I can throw you in the mix. Sure. You're from a very different generation. I'm a millennial, so we've got quite a mix of everything. I want to start with you, Stan. As you look back, when you were Yulette's age, and you were looking forward at the life that you would lead, and you were looking for gainful employment, and you see everything that is happening right now, and you juxtapose the two, how different is it?
As a self-made man, in my time, our priority was doing our best, getting the nearest job, making money, maybe not much of it as was possible as at that time, but doing your best, doing new things, planning for them years in advance. So you could take the leap when time became ripe.
When did you start working?
Well, I was involved in as a techno geek. I was involved in a lot of things right from college days. I used to, in the audio field, the lighting field, I used to build my own stuff. And I had a lighting business right in my college days.
Okay.
The disco era.
The disco era. Can you relate to that, Yulette?
That is something I have grown up seeing. I've grown up seeing my dad innovate and make something new. And a common term for it is jugaad today, where people like to put things together. But to me, that's just my father. That's not jugaad. Okay.
So I hear that you have two older brothers, one who is pretty much on the cusp of being millennial, and you are Gen Z. You are 22 years old. You've just started working. I'm just trying to understand from you, and we're going to talk about financial freedom. We're going to talk about independence. If I were to ask you the question, what does independence mean to you?
To me, independence has many meanings, but I'll say the two that stand out to me. One of them is that ease of expressing myself through what I do, through the way I live and dress, all of that. And the second one is to not be forced into a choice, to have all of my choices open. I think that is one of the most important meanings of freedom to me.
Okay, and that you mean by employment, what you do to earn your living, is that what you mean?
Through employment, even through, if say today I'm fed up with my job, I want to explore something different. I don't want to be backed into a corner because, oh wait, I don't have money, I cannot jump onto something else today.
Okay, I want to ask your dad whether he had that choice, because I think a lot of people from your generation, Stan, talk about the fact that they did what they needed to do to put bread on the table. They didn't really have too much of a choice. For example, you had 3 children, you had to bring them up. That was your foremost priority. The job market then was very, very different. You started your own thing. But would you say that your objective at that time was not, when can I stop working?
Yes, thought always occurred to me, because when I reached that era, there were people already saying we are going to retire at 45.
Really, even back then?
Yes. There were people saying that, and you see YouTube, like maybe today you see on YouTube, there were similar stories going around, and you're saying, why can't I also do it?
Oh, okay. Wow, so that's interesting. The fact that it stayed the same. Are you surprised by that, Rohit? This is not really a new concept. People wanted to stop working. Who wants to work, right?
No, that's a news. That's definitely a surprise, Alex, because what has happened is that, the way technology has gone, the new generation has become very aware. The information is available to them. And, they all have dreams and desires that don't want really to be into this 12 hours run. The other thing that you will notice, Alex, is that, what they call typically as a 1-2-3 formula. You hire one person, give him the double salary, get him to do the work of 3 people. And that's the reason what everyone wants, that when can I be financially free so that I can really do something else. And I think that's the change that I see in this generation.
Okay. Tell me about your interaction with your other children as well, Stan, because I'm sure that you would have learned things from them as well. Do they think differently from your daughter, or do they have a more or less similar outlook? And what are the kind of conversations that you've had about money, if at all? And what is the kind of advice that you've given them? Because you come with a very different lens and experience of dealing with things.
Yes, handling each of the 3 of them have had a different outlook of life. As I say, all 5 fingers are not the same.
Right.
I accept it that way. But yes, each one had varying degrees of ambition or achievements. But our overall advice to them was keep stability.
Stability. Okay.
Keep stability. All of them started working the minute. They're all engineers. They're all engineers. 2 of them masters. She's just finished engineering. But our priority was that, as it may sound odd for today's, that don't laze around. Keep yourself busy. Get a job the minute you pass out.
Your dad says it might sound odd. Do you want to comment on that?
It is, I guess people do find it odd because I started working fairly early. I started working just as I finished my 2nd year of engineering. Not out of compulsion, it's just that there was an opportunity. I felt I can take this opportunity. And my friends thought it's a little insane because juggling a whole 8-hour job with college was exhausting. And yeah, it is odd to people.
Okay. I want to talk about investments, and I'll come to you, Rohit, in just a bit. But first to you, because that will set the context for the rest of this conversation. Do you invest at all?
To a limited degree. I am still learning what they did and trying to decide what would be good for my money.
Okay. So when you think about your investments, of course, I'm not asking you to say what you've learned. But of course, you're exposed to a lot of information. You look at the various options available to you. For example, a lot of your cohort, your generation, look at cryptocurrency or look at relatively new financial instruments very differently from what your dad might. So what are the things that you have been attracted to when you talk about investments?
So in investments, I think to explore the riskier ones, you first need to ensure that you have a decent amount of the safe ones. So I think one of the safest things are FDs. It's very old school. My mom always says that, every couple of months when you've saved up enough, put in an FD.
Yeah.
Later do what you want with your money.
So that's what you're doing now?
So that's what I've been doing so far, playing catch up with the FD gang.
This is a 22-year-old. Rohit, are you surprised by this answer? 22-year-old investing in fixed deposits because her mom has told her every couple of months, whatever surplus you have.
I do agree that FDs are not, to some degree they do beat inflation, to some degree they're just preserving your money.
Wow.
But it's debatable.
Rohit, you want to comment on this?
We need to define what is safe.
So you want to talk about it? Why don't you do?
And I think what we really have to think more about it is that, and I think when we are starting up, fixed deposit is definitely a good idea because you need an emergency corpus.
So, but let's talk about that. Early on, did you contemplate investing in equity? Did you build an equity portfolio? Everybody looks at the relatively older generation. You're very young, Stan, I must say that, but you've had more years than I certainly have. But the opportunities at that time were to invest in early companies, right? In companies that were starting out on their journey. India was not necessarily growing as fast as it is and has been over the last couple of decades. So you had the opportunity, for example, investing in Infosys or TCS or any one of these large companies today. What did you think about that?
I may have a different story for you.
Please.
Because we belong to a time where our priorities were looking after our house, looking after our dependent elders, and also your career.
Yeah.
I used to invest in electronic equipment to
So you invested in your business.
Business, or even know my own skills.
Right.
To further my skills. And so there was, although I used to study the full investment page of Times of India, all the stocks, everything like that, but we said we keep it for a later date.
You always push it down the road because you didn't have the surplus to invest.
We may have had, but then there were other priorities crowded that came in between.
That's very interesting.
Like at one juncture in my life, it was, okay, I had, say, 50K, that was at her age, one fine day, suppose, or even less, maybe a little younger than that, and I decided, do I buy a bike or do I fix up my house?
And you chose a house.
Yes, because I said the bike can, in those days people just pick up a bike and walk off or things like that. And I said, I don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
So shall I do something which is lasting?
So, but this beautifully explains how people have a very different mindset, right? So, can you even contemplate that today, Yulat? And I'm asking this effectively of you because you have a very different approach to the earnings that you have. You don't have the compunctions that your dad might have had at that time. He's taken care of his own requirements and he's not dependent on you at all. And so therefore your income is your own. Can you contemplate the fact that when he was your age, that didn't exist?
It seems like a very scary choice, I'd say.
Yeah. So Rohit, why don't you talk about this? Because ultimately, this is the definition of different generations within our country right now, right? Because you have a generation now that is earning, that is comfortable, where a base or a foundation has been created for them that allows them to elevate to the next level. Why is that so important today?
2-3 observations, Alex, and if you really think about, the time that Stan comes from, that generation, not specifically him, but I'm referring to that generation. See, the society is also structurally changing from a, multi-family, joint family system. We are now sort of shifting to nuclear. The other is look at the income profile. Look at the disposable income, the way it is rising. And he said it in terms of the priorities. Then, how do we really look at it in terms of where is the question of saving? Whereas for her, that's becoming an important question that, one, they're not a sandwich generation. For example, in his case, parents as well as planning and probably in some cases even taking care of the children.
In his case, absolutely that was the
case. And this generation doesn't need to. Stan is already taking care of himself. And that's the reason these questions are coming. I have a higher disposable income. I really don't want to do the rat race. And then can I, really be financially freedom? I think that's a generational transformation that is happening.
But I want to ask this, right? Because this then leads me to another question. Stan, you've saved all your life. You've taken care of your children. You effectively don't have financial dependence right now, right?
I shall add into that.
Right.
Both me and my better half have together planned it.
Exactly. So you've done that.
Yes.
What I have realized, and this is true for my parents as well, is that they have a lot of money for themselves, but more or less in a similar situation. But even if I give them money because they're not spending their own, they don't spend it.
Right.
So would you say that your generation has not learned how to spend money?
We believe in constructively spending our money.
How do you define that?
Is don't get something out of compulsion, or just the other person has it. Just get something. If it's useful for you, maybe flashy also, maybe it's something a little better, but it's useful for me.
Do you think that dad and mom spend enough on themselves?
So one thing about Dad is he's a person of few wants, but he gets himself the good stuff when he wants to get himself something.
I've got my answer.
And what I'm observing, Alex, my mom has stopped buying jewelry because the government now wants 18% GST.
Right.
Right? And I think the difference is that the lifestyle aspiration is a one-way traffic.
Yeah.
Right? And this generation has beautifully managed it well. Instant gratification, delayed gratification, need versus want. Whereas this generation, we're all into experiences. We don't want to get attached to a location. We don't want to marry to a job for the next 40 years. And I think those are the new interesting combinations coming up.
No, absolutely. So, I don't know if it's an interpretation that I have or it's just an observation. It doesn't appear to be the case for the two of you and for your family. But what I've often found is that people of your generation, Stan, have saved all their lives. They've been responsible. But now when it comes to enjoying the fruits of their labor, they've not been able to do that. They're not able to cut loose and say, oh, I want to go to Italy this year. Or, look, I want to go to Kerala. I want to spend 2 weeks in the backwaters.
And
no, it's too expensive. Not now. Maybe next year. Maybe in a few months.
Would that be a function of two? One is the fear, money fear.
Yes.
We all have money fear, right? Will I run
have
out
enough
money
for the rest of my life?
Money
right.
will, run out of me. The second is it's also a lack of a planning.
Yeah.
Right? India, financial planning is 20 years old. In the US, it is 60 years old, correct? And the financial planning for the most traditional families is that a joint family system, which takes care of it. So when we have not done the numbers, we don't know the math, we haven't done a safe withdrawal rate, systematic withdrawal, then it becomes very difficult to spend the money.
Yeah, and equally, what I found in not necessarily my generation, because I think we've taken a lot from our parents, you have as well. Evidently, you have a lot of the answers that I think I would look for in people of my age. But having said that, a lot of young people say, I'm going to spend now and worry about the future later. But having said that, I'm going to use this opportunity to ask you both to speak to Rohit about how to manage your own finances, because this is the perfect opportunity.
Right.
If you were to talk about your retirement and the next 20, 30 years maybe, do you have any doubts about how to manage your money that you would like to pose to him?
Yes. Yes, we have, as she said some time back, that the FD was the safest or thing like that. We don't go into adventure. But in the current, that we've always been busy 24/7. So going to some adventurous investments has always been a thought, but not put into practice. But now with a little more free time, yes, definitely. Could you give me some advice on how we could channelize our funds for better returns?
You need to have a conversation with him about how to plan.
Sure. So I'm just simply going to give you, this example that what we see here is basically a currency.
Yeah.
Right? But money is not currency. Money is purchasing power, right? And, in many words, when you think about it, money also reflects our love for the generations to come and for the causes which are very close to us. So the whole concept is that, first level, how can we, build the power of our money, whereas there is a purchasing power. And at the second level, can the money flow like a river? When you see the river flowing downstream, it gets deeper and wider, right? And the money is also like that. It can grow generation to generation. Now, when we think like that and think for the next 30 years, 40 years, which itself could be a very well period that you yourself have, then you will look at it in a very different way and probably start thinking about that if India is going to become a $5 trillion economy and even more, how can I leverage that?
Okay, so therefore I think what he's getting at is you need to have a certain element of equity in your portfolio. Because this is ultimately the way that you grow is going to be to invest in companies that are part of the growth story of India, right? So you obviously still have your consultant work that you do, but if you're talking about people like Stan, and of course I'm not asking you to give him exact financial advice, maybe we can do that offline, but for somebody in his context, what are the kind of things that he needs to look at in terms of the amount of money that he should keep at the very least in his portfolio towards equity to ensure that he takes care of the next 20 years, and he has something to give over to Yulet as well as the other two children.
So, one is maybe it will be a good idea for you to learn the concept of SWR. And I think this is something that all our parents should take effort and learn it, is that because the whole problem that, you have, Alex has, Yulet is going to have, I'm going to have, is that, how do we consume our money so that, we don't outlive money, money outlives us. So that is an art and science, it's a debate, it is not a settled an issue, but the safe withdrawal rate is the concept. How do you withdraw a certain percentage of your money in such a way that you are able to grow the corpus and it survives you at least for the 3 to 4 decades of retirement? It's a huge debate, as I said, and you can take a number anywhere from 2.5% to 4%, 4.5% based on your risk appetite, based on these different
What is this 2.5 to 4%?
Right. So suppose if I have 1 crore and if I take a 3% at the age of, let's say, 65, then I can withdraw 3 lakh rupees per annum from the corpus, which basically means I can do an systematic withdrawal of roughly around 25,000 per month.
Okay.
So that's a good starting point for a 3 to 4 decades of retirement planning.
Okay. To come to you, Yulet, because you've got so many years ahead of you, I think this is the optimum and the most ideal opportunity for you to look forward and say, this is when you... I wish that somebody had this conversation when I was 22, right? I started very late, but I've still benefited because I started when I did. Rohit, any advice that you would give to her as she's starting out? She's been doing fixed deposits, which is a great thing to do when you're starting out, because she's creating the habit of saving. And she's already got a great foundation. I think her dad and her mom have given her excellent advice, maybe her brothers as well.
So, one thing to Yulet's credit, somebody has said, one of the very maverick investor, I think Joel Greenblatt has said that one of my largest position is not where I'm expecting a huge money to be made. I'm expecting money to be not lost. Morgan Housel says, compared to other people, I have a higher element of cash. And I'm okay with that because it allows the rest of my portion, which is aggressive, long-term equity, to have a higher longevity. So when you have money with you, that's a power in today's world. So that's a great thing to do. My advice to you will be that learn this subject, study this. Depends upon what is the method you like to learn. You read a book, you pick up a podcast, you do YouTube, you read up on AI. But the whole idea is, for example, Morgan Housel has done very good work in this area, and there are a couple of very, very deep, insightful, resources for you to get started.
But I'm specifically talking about her investments and how she should approach that, because just the concept that I think is very powerful of obviously compounding, but what Warren Buffett talks about when he says that compounding is like a snowball on snow, right? It gathers and becomes bigger. I'm paraphrasing here, but what you need for it to become much larger is a long hill. And so therefore you need to start early, as he did at the age of 11, and you're 22, not very far away, or you need to live long, and he's over 90 years old right now. So, and he's got what, 20% per year, which is something that people have gotten over the last 5 years. I'm not saying that that's necessarily something to aspire to, but you can get what, 12 to 15%.
Yeah,
that is
point,
the advice
Alex.
that I'm looking at.
I'm just thinking because, if you look at this generation, nobody is really caring about retiring at 60 and looking at the NPS or EPF. For them, 60 is not retirement, first of all. It's much earlier.
Yeah.
But I think most of them probably tend to have only 3 goals. One is they want to have money to get married. 2, they want to have money to buy a house. 3, they want to have money to buy a vehicle.
Yeah.
So the 3 goals.
Is that relatable, or is that not true at all?
My priorities in life are more of I'm saving up for an education.
Yes.
Because education is very expensive.
Yes.
Lovely.
That's my first priority in life right now.
Right.
Second one is maybe stepping out of my parents' house a bit. Like rents are ridiculous right now. So if I could pull that off a little, maybe a few years from now, that would be amazing for me.
So two priorities essentially.
Yeah.
And you're not worried about retirement at all, but you'd like to stop working at some point.
It'll come when it has to come.
There you go. So, but if she starts today and she's got these immediate goals and she saves for 22, 23 years, at 45 she's already got a humongous corpus to fall back on.
That's right.
So, but last bit of advice on how she can achieve her immediate
So
goals.
small equity exposure could be a good idea, because you need to get comfortable, NAV, fluctuation, understanding the style. But if your goals are nearby, like education, like you want to live independently, then probably you need to build a corpus which is not dependent to the equity markets, because in the short run, that's a problem. 2 years, 3 years, it's a problem. But the full cycle is 5 years, 6 years, 8 years. And then, when we look back, we are always wondering that whether we are in upcycle, whether we are in a late cycle, whether we are in early cycle.
Time is more important than anything else. No, I've certainly learned a lot from Stan and Yulette both, particularly Stan, because of the way that he's conducted himself and the way that you've taught your daughter. It's commendable. Rohit, thanks so much for taking the time.
Sure.
Of course, this has been a free-ranging conversation, talking about all things independence related and everything else money related as well. Let us know what you think and what you think independence means to you. Here's wishing you and your families a very happy Independence Day. Thanks so much for watching. This is NDTV Profit.